they've shifted from a toy to a real tool, and something that isn't just the hammer type of tool, more like an airplane or a helicopter type of tool.
Welcome back to episode number 10. That's right, we're 10 episodes deep and excited about it, of the Unmanned Podcast powered by USI. Today we sit down with Isaac Piche, the UAS Standards and Operations Manager of Quanta Aviation, a division of the largest company that you may never have heard of. With over 60,000 employees, I'm telling you, they literally do it all. We're going to dig into some of those use cases and hopefully open your eyes to what drones can do for you. Let's go. We're here to talk today about drones and drone use cases, and we thought it'd be super exciting to talk to you and about Quanta and what they do. And for those viewing, a learning point to me is Quanta is a humongous company, and I'm looking at their website right now, and it's electrical power, underground utilities, renewables, broadband, engineering performance solution, engineering itself. It's amazing. So tell us a little bit about Quanta, and then Quanta Aviation, which is the division you're a part of.
So Quanta Services is headquartered in Houston, Texas. And it's a massive company, like 60,000 employees, Fortune 200. And it's a grouping, a conglomerate of about 250 different companies that all exist to support the construction of critical infrastructure assets. Super
cool. It's one of those things that it's like the biggest company you've tend to not hear about if you're not in the space. So it's amazing all the different touch points that it has and what Quanta does for us. So, tell us about your background a little bit, where you came from and how you ended up in the drone space to begin with.
So I started with drones in 2013 with the DJI Phantom 1. I was doing video production at the time and just absolutely fell in love with it. I was actually working on an indie film. It was my second indie feature film. Helped write it and was directing it and kind of just pulling all the pieces together. And one of my producers was like, "Hey, have you seen this little quadcopter thing?" And he showed me a picture of it, and I was like, "We need that like yesterday." Lo and behold, it didn't even have a gimbal. It was hard mounted GoPro on there, no FPV system. So we would just kind of hit record and just send it and hope for the best. But we were able to, supplement some of the helicopter video time that we had budgeted. So it was like, this is really cool. And then I got to keep it after the production. So, spend years just playing with it and crashing it and rebuilding it and learning about the ins and outs of it. And then in 2019, PG&E started the Wildfire Safety Inspection Program. And I was sort of at a turning point with my video production career and really wanted to pivot into something a little more solid and sustainable. So jumped into that, feet first and assisted with that project after the campfire, in the town of Paradise happened. And we had to go in and inspect basically almost every asset that was in high fire threat district for PG&E's system. So it was a pretty big project. And after that, things just kept rolling in the utility space for drones. Spent some time San Diego Gas and Electric with their program, their DARE program. And offshore, got some time doing oil rig 3D scans, even some like emission flights, looking for emissions off the oil rigs. Flare inspections, solar inspections, a lot of telecom, cell tower, paid my dues as cell tower pilot across the country for a while. And, eventually found a home at Quanta and now I have the opportunity to build the program and run the operations here.
That's awesome. I heard those oil rigs are super comfortable. Really nice to be on in the winter too.
Yeah, they're great at making you think that before you get out there. It's one of those things. And as a pilot, I was like, "Oh, this is the pinnacle of my career. This is some of the most technical, coolest flying that you can do, and all this stuff." And at the time, we were flying the Intel Falcon 8, and I don't know if you have any experience with that aircraft, but it is a far cry from DJI or any of the other modern drones nowadays.
Yeah, I
A lot
bet.
of manual controls and troubleshooting constantly. So yeah, it was a good experience, but I wouldn't say comfortable.
Yeah. So you're over at Quanta Aviation now, which is a division under the larger Quanta umbrella. Quanta not only has the drone fleet, it has helicopters and some fixed wings, and so a lot of aviation assets over there. When you came over, how did you move in and start building out and structuring the drone program over there at Quanta in preparation for, building out and scoping the offerings that you have there?
So when I came over, I was basically leaving the field and stepping into a more administrative management role. And one of the taskings from the corporate team was that we needed to consolidate operations across all the different operating companies and standardize things. So my role as the UAS standards and operations manager and largely is a compliance and auditing type of role where we're helping our operating companies operate under regulatory FAA compliance, as well as we have companies in Canada with Transport Canada and even Australian with the CASA. So making sure that everybody is following the rules and then also has the standard operating procedures, safety management systems, training and maintenance, all their ducks in a row, I guess to say, and make sure that everybody's doing things right. So when I stepped in, it was kind of, I hesitate to say siloed, but each company that was working with drones was kind of doing so individually, and we had decided that it's much better for us to bring things under one umbrella. Quanta Aviation already manages the fixed wing and helicopter operations for all Quanta services. So, we fly Chinooks, we fly in massive towers and do huge construction projects. We have Blackhawks, we have, down to MD-500s doing patrols and things like that. Yeah. So we oversee those helicopters. We have about 77 in our fleet, and then also drone or aerial service providers beyond our capabilities. So we vet third-party helicopter and now drone service provider companies to come in and supplement.
That's awesome. I mean, to think about the scope and the scale of having all those aviation assets, you came in, or you talked about something that was interesting to me, because we see commonly this decentralized approach in the drone industry, especially in the utilities kind of space. And you're saying, at least what I heard was, that wasn't the best fit for Quanta, and you kind of centralized that control and that administrative processes and programs that are in place. Was there any headaches there in trying to bring that and rein that back in from when they were doing it differently from one business to another?
The change in the UAS industry over the last, just 2 or 3 or 4 years has been pretty drastic in terms of safety management and just the way that our clients, our utility partners specifically, look at drones. They've shifted from a toy to a real tool, and something that isn't just the hammer type of tool, more like an airplane or a helicopter type of tool. So having those, ISBAO or BARS types of certifications and standards in place has been really crucial for us. And, working with companies like USI to guide that type of safety management system and training protocols has really been required. And that's been the big change, getting everybody on board and to realize that, the old way of doing things was different. And now we have to do things to a higher standard. We have to do them to the helicopter crewed manned aviation standard now.
Especially with and we'll get to this a little bit later probably, but the 108, the notice of proposal for rulemaking comes out with the 108, and it's kind of at the same time vague and offering the ownership onto the operators, but it's also raising that bar a little bit. So for those folks that were maybe, like you said, used to thinking of the drone as a tool, which it is, but now it has some regulation, some character around it and how you can deploy it. And I think that's smart of Quanta to get in front of that bow wave and start adding that structure around there. Unpacking what you all do, you talked about these different places and these different use cases. What are some of the flagship use cases that Quanta, how do they utilize their drone technology and drone systems in construction or energy, utility, inspection? What are some of those big flagship cases?
A lot of bread and butter for a lot of drone service providers is going out and doing like visual inspections. That still is the bulk of our operations, but we also get into the more specialized stuff. So we have level 2 and level 3 thermographers that are pilots that can go out and do substation inspections, and coupled with the handheld on the ground. We get into long range. We have a beyond visual line of sight waiver for up to 50 miles right now with our fixed wing aircraft, the Census aircraft. And that allows us to do some of this long linear infrastructure mapping that has become a pretty consistent requirement and ask for us. So looking at, pre-construction, whether it's LiDAR for engineering, survey, DTMs, digital surface or terrain models, and producing the pre-engineering type of reports, even to just reducing truck rolls and producing just a 2D map that project managers and foremen and guys just planning to go out to the field for the day to build that asset can look at that map and have something that's not only much higher resolution than Google Maps, but accurate and up to date within, the last 4 or 5 months whenever we went out to fly it. So they don't have to go out and take a look at things every single time. We've done a lot more of the more complex operations as well, some corona inspections, some rope pull operations to string lead line on the towers.
I was interested on this when we talked earlier. Describe that a little bit for our audience, because in my mind, I have a vivid picture that's probably wildly wrong.
I doubt it's wildly wrong. So when you're stringing a structure, the traditional method would be to go up in a bucket truck when there's good access in between, and just carry the line from structure to structure. So that's kind of the easy way to do it in general. If there's any type of terrain that's an issue, then it becomes either a helicopter or now drone capable operation. So if there's a project that a helicopter is not attached to, we can kind of fill in that middle ground where the helicopter has a certain deployment cost, mobilization cost. They're not everywhere. And quite honestly, helicopters are just so in demand, it's hard to even get their time right now. So we can fill in that kind of middle ground where if there's not one already on site, we can deploy out there and string some hard to access areas, or maybe just environmentally or customer sensitive areas that, you can't be hovering a MD500 or a Bell 407 over a suburban neighborhood.
That's amazing. I mean, because it just is a testament to how useful drone technology is in general. I mean, if you can think about it, it can probably be done. If you unpack it, do a proper risk assessment and analysis and plan, you can do so much with aerial drone assets. It's just amazing. You talked about saving money and costs, so that makes sense to us. But what about data? Has there ever been data that has been captured by a drone that has maybe changed the decision or revised the plan for a construction project or something like that you can share with us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And more so on the maintenance side, it's kind of obvious that drones give you a better perspective than the ground inspections would. So helicopter inspections have taken place for years. Drones can get a little bit more granular in the detail to be able to see like the cotter pins, for example, that are infamous nowadays, for backing out or being missing, chip broken insulators frayed wire. That kind of level of detail is really hard to achieve with a helicopter. And if it's on the top side of the asset, it's impossible to see from the ground without going up, climbing, or a bucket truck, which, your costs go up, and then your safety risk is much higher too, to send somebody up a pole. So it's really quick to go out and inspect, and it just gets you a whole different set of results. So, there's been instances many times where a pole will be rotten and you can't see it unless you look at the very top and you look down into it. We were just looking at a broken cross arm that was just totally cracked. Only on the top was it visible again, and rotted through where the bell insulator was connected to it. And finding those types of things are just very difficult, if not impossible, from the ground.
Yeah, so, and even if a person was to climb, they I can imagine they wouldn't look maybe from a overhead view, because that's a very delicate situation to get into when you're climbing up on a structure like that.
Yeah. And sometimes, when you're climbing, and I'm not a lineman, like I said, I came from video production into the utility industry as a drone pilot.
But we stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
From my perspective, when you're up close on a pole, you're so zoomed in, it's anything but that 30,000 foot view. So I would think that it's probably kind of easy to get tunnel vision, because you just have such a narrow field of view. And if you can back up, not quite to 30,000 foot view, but, from a 20 or 30 foot view, you can see the whole picture of the structure and notice larger deficiencies that, maybe if you're right up on it, you can't see that crack actually goes all the way across the cross arm. Or, maybe you're not looking at the top of the pole and it's just, it's not something you're thinking to do.
And that's another testament to cost savings, but still increasing the accuracy and detail, because you might not want to pay for a helicopter to hover over something for 30 minutes to get, really detailed, pictures or thermals or whatnot. But to fly a drone for 25 minutes and then get a new battery and put it back in, that costs you 30 minutes of charging of electricity or whatnot, minus the asset. But no, that's cool. And then what do you see now, as the technology continues to evolve? The hot thing in today is AI, and autonomy. What kind of role does that automation and AI play in your operations, and how will you kind of look at that in the next few years or so?
AI and automation, in my opinion, is a bigger shift than the internet itself. I think it is going to change the world in more ways, and already is, even than the internet did, in the early 2000s. For us, with the utility industry, the assessment side, using machine learning algorithms and models that are being developed more and more every day, has really increased efficiency. And the accuracy is there now, where it's actually with the software that we use is actually more accurate than most of the human in the loop QEW manual inspections, because it's refined now. And there was sort of a bunch of vaporware, I think, that was sold early on in the first couple of years, after like the whole Chat GPT, and even just before that, there were a lot of utilities investing in machine learning before it became AI. And those models were not mature yet, in my opinion, didn't have the ability to find the defects that we can find now. And there were a lot of, like I said, vaporware companies where there were people in India or something actually looking at the images overnight. So we've done a lot of due diligence to find actual true, AI programs that do what they say they do. And so when we go in, we actually are seeing an efficiency. Now, looking forward, it is going to, when you combine it with something like remote operations and something like the Skydio, for example, being able to fly over 5G or just autonomously from a dock, when it lands, and it can put that into an automatic download over a Starlink out in the middle of nowhere, and then it gives you an AI report, all within under an hour, let's say. Combining that with some kind of ADMS or SCADA system that's triggering an event, an inspection event, that is faster. We finally get to the point where drones are going to be faster than the lineman going out, just getting in his truck and going out and looking at it.
I would even take it a step further than that too. You're safer from the perspective of, with the person getting in a truck and driving 100 or 50 miles, even, you said they might go every 6 months. That I'm just making it up. But now with the system in place, 50 miles away, and it can do it every day if it wanted to. If you wanted, you can inspect your assets daily, weekly, however, whatever the interval is. I guarantee it'll be more often than having somebody get in a truck and drive out there and do it. So you're increasing the reliability of the system, of the infrastructure. You're targeting your maintenance. So sometimes folks, doomsday it. Oh, but that you're going to put the person in the truck out of work. Not really. You're probably going to give the person in the truck more work for the work they should be doing, which is not driving to the place, but it's actually doing the maintenance and doing the preventative work, because you're able to inspect these items more often and more efficiently.
Yeah, every time we do an inspection, we find a lot of cost avoidance in issues that we didn't expect to see. And we're able to present that to the utility and prioritize issues. And another major benefit is now you can really prioritize maintenance rather than reactive or just routine maintenance.
Yeah, that's right. And you're not worried about waste there, because you're doing that proactive maintenance based off of data, which is, you actually tangibly have. You do a lot of work, and you talked about it with, Chinooks, and then your drones are there maybe to supplement, etc. So what are some of your top safety priorities when operating drone technology, maybe intermingled with other aerial assets?
We're really excited about Part 108 that you mentioned, because there's the ADSPs involved in that, and that is going to be a huge step forward for the industry. I almost wish that it was going to be written into 107 as well, for anybody at least operating critical infrastructure assets. And from our perspective, we have helicopters flying in the right of way all the time. Whenever my crew and my team goes out, or anyone across Quanta, we're probably flying in that right of way area where the helicopters could potentially are doing patrols, doing LiDAR data capture. They're doing stuff too, and even Cessnas and fixed wing utility inspections and patrols. So right now, it's really sort of a mixed bag of different types of tools. We use ADSB to be able to track, and it depends on the type of model of drone too. Some drones have that built in, but there's always at least somebody who has, even if it's cellular connected, just watching like Flight Radar 24, you have to be watching ADSB, VHF radios, listening for call outs on general traffic lines. It's like I said, it's kind of a mixed bag, but it could definitely get better. And I think with what the FAA is proposing with the ADSBs, to be able to see the traffic and have it radio based, not cellular based, so that it's more real time, is really going to be a huge step forward for the safety in the right of way.
I think there are some things in there. I think again, there's some vagueness around there, so I hope they put some structure on once the actual rule comes out. But what other things are you looking at with 108, since we're talking about that will scale up or enhance Quanta's capabilities? Are there anything else in there that you're excited about, or maybe even critical about, to be honest?
Absolutely. The big things, kind of the bells of the ball, the weight increase to 1,320 pounds is really exciting. It's also kind of terrifying, and it just requires a lot of thought. There are some vague, aspects to it that really need to be thought through if we're flying 1,300-pound drones beyond visual line of sight. DAA, sense and avoid. These terms are really easy to put into a document like this, and they're really difficult to implement in the real world. That's so right. There's some hard questions that need to be asked, and hopefully the comment period will bring a lot of that to life without delaying the final rulemaking too much. But, taking the time and doing it right is definitely worth it in this situation, especially. And then the over the horizon, kind of beyond visual line of sight stuff in general, just having more of an operational capability, whether it's permitted or certificate, it allows us to not have to go through a lengthy waiver process and have much more freedom to be able to operate as long as we're following, those set guidelines. I really appreciate that the FAA put a clause in there, a section in there, making it very clear that it is illegal to shoot down drones, even if they're flying over your backyard.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that question. And in being in the delivery space for the past decade, I would always tell people, well, you can't shoot your UPS driver. Why can you shoot the drone? Like it seemed like a no-brainer to me, but yeah, at least they put it in a rule. Yeah,
you can't. I could take a helicopter and hover over your backyard to do an inspection on a utility pole. You can't shoot them down. Even if you're doing something nefarious in the backyard, you can't go out there and shoot them down.
USI is Unmanned Safety Institute, where all of our training and all of our consultation and education and upskilling is underpinned with safety everywhere. It's kind of the bedrock of what we do. And I know it must be difficult to instill a culture of safety in a group like Quanta. How do you cultivate that culture of safety from your position with that broad group of folks that might not be, like I said, exposed to aviation until later?
Yeah, you bring up a really, really interesting nuance there, because in Quanta services, your linemen out there working for PAR or MJ or any of our big companies out there, Service Electric, they've got thousands of these guys that do their JHAs every morning, their risk assessments, they're doing tailboards. It's all documented. There's a very safe operational procedure that exists if you're going to go out there and work on critical infrastructure with your hands and do physical work, or with a bucket truck or anything like that. For drones, it's been a mixed bag of IT people, maybe a former lineman, maybe even the VP of the company who just loves drones and got his license and wants to get into it, hasn't been in the field in 10 years. It's a little bit of a challenge to get, first of all, the mindset shift that this needs to be taken care of, or that this needs to be looked at and held to the same safety standards as crewed aviation. But then also for people like your IT people or your marketing people, a lot of marketing guys are flying drones out there. They haven't participated in many toolbox talks or tailboard safety sessions. So it requires taking them from a certain mindset up to where the physical workers, the craft workers out there that are kicking ass every day building these construction projects already are. So it's about bridging the gap between the two, really.
Yeah. So education is important. And then just, I think, consistency. It's like,
yes,
people are going to miss things, and most folks aren't doing it out of ill intent. They missed it, trying to get the job done, and just being consistent and reinforcing those policies, procedures, and re-educating where needed. I think that's what I found with those folks that aren't maybe particularly raised in the aviation world. You talk about alignment, though. I guarantee they know all the steps and procedures for PPE and discharging the electricity, because their life's on the line, and so they're going to do that perfect, A to Z. And it's trying to instill those same thought processes, A to Z, when they unpack their drone technology for use. So as we move forward, I'm sure you have your comments for 108, and things are rapidly changing in this field. And I think it is going to put a little fuel to the BV loss and capabilities fire. What's next for Quanta and Quanta Aviation's drone program? Are you growing? Are you exploring, ever increasing aperture? What's next there?
Yeah, we are growing. We're actually hiring right now. And we're looking to build out the team pretty much constantly. The demand is just really through the roof for drone inspections and for, again, qualified, safe operators who are out there, putting forth a quality product. And whether it's a large company like Quanta or a small drone service provider, doing something right and doing it safe is going to go a long ways in this business, whether it's LiDAR or visual inspections or flying rope. We're servicing the demand internally within Quanta first, and as well as externally with our direct to our utility partners, and making making the solutions happen as quickly as the FAA and everybody else technology can keep up with. So yeah, very excited about Part 108. One of the things that I'm not very excited about is that our current BVLOS waivers will essentially go away the day that the rule goes into effect. I think that's something that we should get changed out of there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, I think that will adjust a little bit. I don't think it will be immediate. And there's also some language in there into the effect of, you can still ask for relief from 108. So I don't think waivers, are going to go away. It's just, they'll figure out a different way to describe it and the process to get those things or to get relief.
Some kind of a grace period for those of us who spent, time and energy getting the 107 waivers. Like day one, Part 108 goes into effect. We can't just shut off the flow for our existing waivers.
And I think they'll realize they can't do that, because you ain't the only one in that in that kind of bucket. Hey, USI folks that have participated in our training, Quanta Aviation is looking for some folks. What we'll do, Isaac, if it's okay with you, share with our producer, and we'll go ahead and put some of those open roles, or at least a link to Quanta's hiring website that can help guide some of our students and maybe some of the audience that aren't particularly our students, but have those skill sets that you're looking for. I'm assuming 107, some experience in aviation, especially in drone, energy sector or utility sector is probably a plus. Anything I'm missing there is before we leave?
We do require kind of a high standard for our pilots. I'll say if there's less than 100 hours of flight time and less than around 20 hours of actual T&D experience, it's going to be tough. We really look for the people who are out there doing it. If you have a lot of flight time but not the T&D, we might be able to work with you. But yeah, we want to see high flight time hours, proven flight time hours. We're not trying to bring in people that haven't flown very much. We want people who know exactly what the sticks do when they put the movement in, and there's no question about it in their mind.
Hey, I appreciate that. And thank you again for your time, Isaac. It was nice sitting down chatting with you. And I look forward to seeing you again, as I'm hoping the rest of our audience does. Good luck, and thanks for joining us. Thanks again for joining us for episode number 10. It has been incredible to see the growth and the support from you, the viewer. We look forward to many, many more episodes. I hope you enjoy hearing from Isaac, and if you didn't, blame my producers. Honestly, it was great learning about some of the unique use cases of drone technologies, and remember, they're hiring. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Bye for now.